and invite you guys to give a warm welcome to Santa True, Robert Seutter. Please take over, Santa True.
That light.
Can you folks hear me?
This one overhead, you can't have it completely black in here.
Wonderful. I'm hearing somebody else's voice on. Can we check to make certain everybody else is muted? I would like to introduce one of the fellow CPW instructors, Mr. Mike Price. He's the guy who needs to change his name down there from Santa to Santa Mike, and when you get a chance. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? Hello, everybody.
Good. So a quick question, Rick Irwin. How long did you want me to go? How many minutes are you giving me here?
3 hours.
The floor is yours. You can take as long as you want.
Never say that to a Santa.
Listen, these guys are, or there's no gun to anybody's head. They can drop out when they want to, but I, for one, would love to hear anything you have to say, and I'm just thrilled to death to see Santa Mike. How are you, my good and dear friend? Haven't seen you since the reunion last year. I'm silent again. Bye.
All right. Well, folks, a couple of things. First of all, Mike and I are both honored to be here. And Mike and I are both Forbes members. You're a member, right, Mike?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. And so Mike is a brand new instructor with Christmas Performer Workshops. We've been going since 2015. For those of you who have been hanging around Forbes for a while, you probably noticed that at pretty much most of the conventions that Forbes has had, CPW has done some training there. On different topics through the years. Not only myself, but my lady Kat Ellen as well. She taught a couple of classes there as well. So what is CPW? It stands for Christmas Performer Workshops, and our focus is a little different from all the other schools. And so Rick is absolutely right. You know, Cherry Hill, Ed, Tim, they all have their genres and their things that they cover pretty well. In fact, in my school, I absolutely recommend people buy the behind the red suit and take Tim's class. He does a wonderful job on the business side of being a Christmas performer. However, I went out when I first signed up, and I went around and I took as many schools and classes as I could possibly get into. I come from a background of being a traditional spoken word storyteller. I tell stories from all around the world, all different kinds of cultures. I'm really well known for Celtic and Norse and so on and so forth. And I was coming from the role of being a reenactor performer. And so I would create a character, research that character, and then perform and educate and edutain and entertain as that character. Well, back around 2014, I was complaining to a friend of mine. I said, you know, it's the hardest thing. I just can't seem to get any gigs as Santa Claus, or I mean, as a storyteller during that time period, even though I know a lot about Santa lore. And one of my friends sent me a Santa suit, and I put it on, and damn it, I can rock this. But what I didn't realize as a storyteller was how deep that rabbit hole was. I had no idea. I mean, it was Alice in Wonderland time. Holy buckets, there was so much to learn. And I learned so much from the other schools and everything. But one of my continuing frustrations was Tim would touch on performing a little bit, you know, give me a ho, right? He would talk a little bit about character work and stuff like that. And Gordon and Ed and all these other folks. But I kept saying, okay, I need more. Help me learn about how to bring this character to life. Teach me, you know, the body language. Teach me the patter. Teach me the gestures. Teach me all the things that is going to make my character just sparkle and come to life and be as real as possible. And there really wasn't that much out there. Well, I had 30 plus years of bringing characters to life. And I consider Santa more or less a reenactor performer. If you went to a Renaissance fair and met somebody who was Queen Elizabeth, or if you met an Abraham Lincoln or Ben Franklin, they would tell you what they had for breakfast that morning in character in that time period. You would know everything about them, and they would be able to talk, and they would be as believable as anything. Well, in my humble opinion, that's what we are. We are reenactor performers. We reenact a very special magical person, but a ton of data about them, a ton of material and a body of lore around them. And we also entertain. And one of the things I wanted to do when I brought CPW into the community was I wanted to focus on the things that would help us be stronger performers. Because as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing you can invest in is yourself. Investing in yourself as a performer, bringing the magic to life. How many of you, just go ahead and raise your hands when I ask this, how many of you have heard somebody say to you, "Oh my God, you were so much better than the last Santa that we had"? Right? Look at all those hands go up. Why is that? Well, the reason that is because you're professionals. You stepped into the role. You brought the professionalism, you brought the beautiful costume and the look and everything, and also you brought the character. You made it real for them. You were so much better than Hobo Bob, who, came in the last time and passed out and stole the toilet paper. Compared to him, it's not a very high mark to get past that level. However, our field, our craft, has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Since easily the 1200s, there have been, people who have been doing Christmas reenacting. And as we've moved through time, what we are being asked to do has gotten a lot more sophisticated. And so, for instance, now a Christmas performer could be asked to be, can you do this tree lighting? Oh, by the way, as you step up to the tree lighting, they hand you a script. Here are the lines we want you to do. Here are the announcements we want you to you do. They can be asked to do home visits. Well, okay, guess what? That first home visit, you'll probably be able to just get by with a wander. But what about the second one and the third one? Because as you know, we become their Christmas performers. We become their Santa, their Mrs. Claus. And so what are you going to do the next year and the next year? And so on and so on, whether it's a corporate party or it's a home visit or tree lighting or a parade, it all comes back to one central thing: being a performer. So just real quick, I'm going to throw it open. Anybody got some questions that we want to, questions about CPW you want to ask right now? Just go ahead and unmic yourself and unmute yourself, and let's have some questions. Yeah, go for it, Rick.
How much would you endorse the statement, "The clothes make the man," for Santa?
All right. So first of all, I'm going to tell you a few things. First of all, CPW is a bit heretical. I'm going to say we have in the class a little section called the Sacred Cow Barbecue, where we go after a couple of ideas that I think we need to deal with in the Santa community. Rule number one: the ability to grow facial hair does not make you a better performer. Okay. You can have the best beard in the world and still be a not terrific performer. So we need to kind of put that one to the side. In terms of clothes make the man, I see this happen all the time. I see Santas drop $2,000 on some beautiful Santa outfits, right? And then maybe some photography as well. And they don't do anything. They can't perform. They know how to do a few basic things, and they sit in the chair and they know how to ask questions. And maybe they say, "I'm a storyteller," and they read The Night Before Christmas out of a book. And that's it. Now, I happen to know for a fact that we have a couple of performers here. And so, Rick, I'm going to pick on you for a second. Okay. Rick, go ahead and unmute yourself. So, Rick, I've seen you do your visits all around the world piece. I've seen you, use your big performer's voice and singing and all that. Has that had a major impact on your Christmas journey as a performer?
Undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly.
It's my niche.
Yeah, but here's the thing. One of the things that being a strong performer with a variety of options means is, let's say, for instance, you're someplace and let's say some organization offers you, a gig, but they say, oh, but we're only going to pay you $25 an hour and we're only going to use you for 5 hours a day. That's it. If you didn't have any other performing skills, you would pretty much have to take that offer. Okay. However, if you have performing skills, then you can go out and you can say, hey, let's do this tree lighting. Let's do the photo modeling. Let's do all the other things. That's why the investment of investing in yourself as a performer is your best bang for buck. So going back to you, Mr. Rick. Okay. Where'd you go? You're here somewhere. Oh, there you are. So Rick, let me ask you a question. Let's say things went horribly wrong. We got you to the event. You flew in, but your luggage, God forbid, let me knock on some wood, your luggage didn't make it. Okay, and I handed you a Party World suit, and it was just a basic Party World suit. Could you put that suit on and rock it?
I could put that suit on and make that show work. I would have to leave to others to judge whether I could rock that show using a clearly inferior suit. But absolutely, I think I could do it even if you didn't hand me the Santa suit. I could go on and anything Santa asks and just say I'm Santa Casual or describe it. I could tell a story that put me in that attire in front of those people.
Exactly. The wand may choose the wizard, but it's the wizard that brings the magic. Okay. Our suits are our wands. That's how we make the magic happen. But the simple truth is, it's our skill set, our talent that makes it happen. And so I would say definitely having great outfits and having great photography, absolutely a huge asset in the marketing of yourself. But at the end of the day, it's about your ability to bring the magic and make people believe that is the most important thing. And so, if I may, I'm just going to real quick here I'm just going to talk about the things we're going to be covering in the first workshop. So CPW is the most in-depth Santa school out there. It has 3 stacking workshops, each one focusing on different stuff. And so the first one is performing fundamentals. Why fundamentals? There's an old story of a master violinist who was like the world's greatest violinist. And when he was sent for to bring him onto the stage to go perform, and the person who went to get him saw him sitting there practicing his scales. And the person said, Master, you are the greatest master violinist in the world. Why are you doing scales? And he says, if I keep at this, I might get good at it. The simple truth is, performing fundamentals, the fundamentals are the things we're going to focus on all the time. If you're a Santa Claus and you're on stage, do you need to be heard? Absolutely. If your microphone cuts out, do you have the vocal power to continue on? In CPW, the joke is we're not training you to be awesome. We're training you to be awesome when things go horribly wrong and nobody notices. You want to be a swan. You want to be all grace and beauty upstairs, all action downstairs. Okay? So here's some of the things that we're going to cover in the first workshop. And I'll go through that real quick. Performing philosophy, tools of the performer, vocals, physicality, improv, storytelling without saying, telling a story without saying a word. That's all about physicality. Learning character work, how to bring your character to life. All the World's a Stage, understanding space, how to move around on a stage, how to make any place a stage, how you're going to get the people's attention and keep it. Rock Solid Santa. The simple truth is that next to two other genres, we have a very unique art form. If you think about it, we can be on a parade float 1 second and have a little kid on our knee the next. Very few other art forms deal with something like that. And then on top of that, we will go from, just before Thanksgiving all the way until Christmas Eve or longer. And so that's marathon performing. How do you deal with that? How do you keep your level of quality at the level you need? Well, we teach to that. Again, with a performing mindset. The art of expressiveness. How many of us have RGF, resting grumpy face? Okay. Guess what? We can train for that. Santa techniques, knowing how to read an audience, how to engage with an audience. Getting engagement on the small screen. One of the things I noticed is when we suddenly came out in COVID and everybody was talking about this, that, or the other thing, and blue screen and OBS and dancing reindeer in the background, the thing that struck me was nobody was talking about story or content. Very few people were. And not only that, they weren't talking about how to use the screen, how to use Z-axis, how to have cool props and everything you're going to use during your small screen performance. We teach to that. All right. Then let's see what else. Santa Jedi techniques. How do you deal with somebody who's going to be whipping challenge questions on you? You're not the real Santa, or there are only so many reindeer. How are you going to deal with that? We teach to that. The history of Santa Claus and the timeline, because as far as we're concerned, all this information informs your character, and storytelling in particular, backstory, your personal story, where you are in the story today. Where did Santa just come from? Where is he going to? What is your year like? What is your decade like? What happened? What's going to happen when you leave? All of this is stuff that we want to know as characters. And then we're going to touch on storytelling. Unfortunately, that's a whole subject that we teach in the other workshop. And in the second workshop, we spend an entire day doing nothing but learning about storytelling, because it is one of the most powerful tools that you can have as a Christmas performer. It's so useful. And guess what? If you know how to storytell, you'll never run short of content again. It really is one of the most powerful tools for a Christmas performer. And then moving from there, we talk about story reading and storytelling, story time, and then rethinking the Santa community, how we can improve the things we do in our community, change some mindsets that we can empower each other and make this so much more powerful. And then question and answering and what's going to happen in the future. We cover all of that in 2 days. It's a lot. And then in the second workshop, we focus on Christmas performing and character work, especially working in duos and trios. So if you have elves or Mrs. Claus or you have other characters you work with, we're going to teach you that. And then in the third workshop, we focus on coaching and empowering your community. And so one of the things that we focus on in CPW is being a coach, knowing how to coach, understanding the creativity, because CPW wants you to be creative. But how do you encourage that? How do we help each other? How do we mentor each other? That's where the third workshop comes in. So another thing that we're going to be teaching in the workshop, in the fundamentals workshop, is if you want to, you can purchase the CPW hand training deck. And the cool thing about the training deck is it's got 4 different topics, right? And once you have these cards, you can use these cards to train yourself, to sit down and train with others, to sit down and train a group. If anybody else has a deck of cards, you can sit down and challenge each other, or just play a game of poker if you want. But the simple truth is that I wanted to have a training aid that wasn't a book that was going to sit on a shelf. It was going to be something that you could bring with you anywhere, have in your car, have behind the scenes, right? Wherever you are. And so we created the CPW training deck. And so we'll have them for everybody to use. And then if you want to purchase a deck, you absolutely can. You're not obligated to. Another cool thing about CPW, the alumni, is we have the alumni group. The cool thing about the alumni group, we have experts on all sorts of different subjects. We have at least 1 to 2 training Zooms and an entire file section full of great content. Once you become alumni, you join the alumni group, you have access to it, and it is free. It is one of the most amazing training resources you will ever find in the Christmas community. Why? Because everybody there is focused on helping each other. We have a phenomenal group, and I'm very proud of them. They're wonderful people. And of course, when you come to the workshop, you become alumni, you get to join. It's a pretty cool resource. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the focus over to my good friend, Mike Price. And Mike is a fairly new Santa. And so Mike comes from a background of music and theater and stage presentation. He is an orchestra conductor, a musician, an instrumentalist, and has massive talent. And so I was very honored when he decided he wanted to work with CPW. And Mike, because this is all still relatively new to you, so to speak, compared to us grumpy old buggers here, why don't you talk about a little bit of your journey and what you see happening when you work with CPW?
Oh, thank you very kindly. I have, actually, I don't think, I'll certainly know Alan. Alan and I go back a bit. I've shared a couple of classes together. I actually, Drew and I actually shared stages back in the early 90s as performers. So we go back quite a few years. So I got to know him before his Santa journey. So there was that. I've actually been a Santa Claus as far as having a suit is concerned for a number of years, being Santa for families, social gatherings and whatnot. But I never pursued the professional position of Santa until True introduced me to it. And and I'm not going to say henpeck because that would not be proper. But the last few years, he's been saying, you should be a Santa, you should be a Santa. And also pointed out the fact that recently in our community, diversity has become a very, very big thing. And being able to experience Black Santas and Asian Santas and Latino Santas and so forth. I actually went to the Santa reunion last year, and I had, unbeknownst to me, Santa Tim was the keynote speaker talking about diversity in the Santa community. So it was like he was talking to me. So I took True's class and I've been very, very interested in it. And last year, 2022, was my first Santa season. And I did very, very well with True's support and Cat support and my wife Nola's support. It was a very enjoyable, very enlightening experience, one that I'm looking very forward to in doing more. And being part of CPW and learning about the more the performer aspect, some things that I've done, because when I had my band, I was the accountant, because you have to make sure you keep everything straight. You can't go out and do stuff. So things that I'm bringing as an instructor to CPW would be some focus on the financial aspect of maintaining your Santa business, as well as doing my vocal training. Besides, as True mentioned, I've been an orchestra conductor. I've also been a choir director, as well as a vocal coach. Sung on a few albums, did some singing. I did an opera back at the Hollywood Bowl many years ago. So I've been out there, and part of Santa's presence is his ability to be heard. Mm-hmm. So you're on stage, and you want everybody who is in the front row to hear you as clearly as they can. Let's say 20 rows back, 30 rows back. I'm sure all of you have had functions where we've had large crowds. Um, my aspect of teaching some vocal stuff is to try and help to be able to give the power of your voice without hurting yourself, to be able to project yourself without, you got 3 gigs that day. You don't want to be able to be, loud and profound at the first gig and whispering, by the third gig. So try to do trainings on helping you with that.
One of
And
the,
yes,
uh, just a quick thing. How many of you have noticed that um, a lot of the designer bearded Santas are amazing performers? Why is that? The reason is because they were performers before they ever suited up. They were magicians, or they were clowns, or musicians, or they come from some sort of performing background. And so when they get into suit, when they suit up, they bring the jolly. And so one of the things that I knew when I was working with Mike, first of all, he had the spark. When I tell people to go out and recruit, I tell them, don't pay attention to the beard. Pay attention to the person who people just automatically seem to lighten up and become joyous around that person. If you're the kind of person who walks into a room and 2 minutes later you got a pile of kids and you're wrestling with them and everything, guess what? There's a very good chance you've got the spark. Well, I've known Mike for 35 plus years, and dude has the spark. It's much easier for me to help him become a great Santa than it is for me to teach him how to be a performer, because he's been working it and applying it to himself for many years. Mike, real quick question. In terms of the kind of content the CPW teaches, what has been the most useful thing for you? Or what are some of the useful things?
I would say, well, one of the things certainly is the fact that we don't, uh, CPW doesn't focus on a particular type of Santa.
Hmm.
Um, no matter who you are, no matter what your background is, we have tools that help people to utilize their background and their particular history to help them enhance the overall Santa experience. And something that I really enjoy doing, having done it already. It's still something. There's still some other stuff that I'm learning. Besides being able to share what I've got, I'm also, by having classes, learning from people as well. And everything that we do, everything that we go through, um, we can use those bits of our day-to-day lives to help enhance our characters.
Hmm.
And we definitely have the tools with CPW to help focus on that and be able to see that and go, oh yeah, you know what? There was this kid that I saw the other day, and I could go into a story, for example. Or you'll be at a function and there'll be some kid who's kind of quiet, who reminds you of some other kid that you saw before, and you can create a story from that. So everything is an opportunity to fulfill or to enhance your Santa character, and CPW definitely helps to get that focus.
And you had a pretty good start on your season. You were doing gigs with Jimmy Kimmel and traveling all around SoCal and doing a bunch of photo sessions. I was pretty impressed. You did a
Yeah,
good job.
we had a very good time. Everything from San Diego up to San Luis Obispo
Yep.
did shows, and yeah, the Kimmel thing was a complete surprise. I had a weekend's photo session set up with a company down in Corona, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours from my house. And I got the call from Kimmel, and so I called my photographer and I said, "Can we start a little later?" Because Jimmy Kimmel, and they said, "Say no more. Take the weekend, go do your thing. Kimmel's important." So I did that. There was a fire at a church here in East LA back last September, and the police community decided to do a toy giveaway, and Santa Courtney donated a bunch of toys to give away, and Santa Courtney was the one who said, since it's going to be down there in East LA, I have a good Santa for you to go ahead and give the toys away. So that was my first on-camera professional Santa performance, and the local KCAL Channel 9 was there and did got some footage of that, and it was amazing. It was very life changing for me in a lot of respects, which just secured my joy for doing this and wanting to learn more.